AM 1460, the new WXBR. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show, PM in the AM. Peter Czymbor and Mike Pava here with you on a Tuesday morning. Tonight, 9:30 p.m. on Bloomberg Television Network is the premiere of C-Suite. And joining us right now is the host of that very program, Mr. Jeffrey Hayzlett. Jeffrey, good morning.
Well, good morning, Boston. It's good to be with you.
Do you like Jeffrey or Jeff? I feel like I should ask before I formally speak to you.
You know, I get paid a lot more in my contract if you say Jeffrey, but Jeff's fine too.
Okay, so we'll say Jeffrey because, we want you to make the big bucks. It's all about business. It's the Bloomberg Television Network. You're looking at businesses. We want to make some money, Jeff. Let's Jeffrey.
Hey, Jeffrey, you got it. And then we're talking business tonight on the show with Dunkin' Donuts because America runs on Dunkin', and we're running on Dunkin' tonight. That's what we'll be doing.
So let's talk about the concept of this new show, C-Suite, which premieres on Bloomberg Television tonight at 9:30. What exactly is the concept of this program? People probably know you from a lot of the talking head shows on various business networks, The Apprentice with Donald Trump. What is the concept of this particular show, which premieres tonight?
I got to tell you where I got the idea. I was just sitting around, listening to radio, watching television, reading articles on business, and I see stuff every once in a while and go, why did they do that? What was the decision behind that? Who in their right minds would do that? Some of those kinds of things. And so what I wanted to do was take people into that C-suite, into the areas of which 99.9% of the people in business, even the people in business won't get. It's the most elite, room there is in the world. And what we're doing is taking people into those discussions, into those conversations to find out why they did what they did. And that's what we're about.
Now, you are premiering the show tonight at 9:30. The inaugural episode focuses on Dunkin' Donuts, of course, a business which emanates here in New England. You really can't go more than 2 or 3 blocks without finding a Dunkin' Donuts in the greater Boston area. Tell us about some of the different businesses that are going to be a part of this first season of the show.
Well, we've got some great businesses. We've lined up Dunkin'. We've also done Domino's. Domino's is another business that happens to be another food business, but you can remember they went out and said, their pizza tastes like cardboard. It sucks. So I wanted to find out about that one. We've got the Seattle Sounders, the biggest soccer team franchise in America, valued over $100 million, first one to break $100 million, and bringing in over 70,000 people a game in Seattle, of all places. We're also going to MGM, and we're going to CrossFit gyms, which is growing at 4,000% this year. So there's a lot of different businesses that we're taking into, from sports to hospitality, to food, to manufacturing, and a whole host of other ones that we'll be announcing a little bit later.
I've had friends in my personal life that have tried to start businesses that are part of franchises that have been absolute colossal disasters, and I have one who is currently starting a CrossFit business. What did you find out about CrossFit? You mentioned that it's grown exponentially in recent years. Their members are almost like part of a cult, a very healthy fit club at that. What did you find out about CrossFit? And for people that want to get involved in ventures such as this, is now a good time to do it given the economy? And we'll stick with CrossFit, but even more broad beyond CrossFit, is now the right time to get involved in a franchise or something of that nature? Because it seems like you're doing a lot of franchises.
Yeah, it's always a good time to get in business if you got the right idea and you're capitalized and you got the right kinds of things. There's a lot of things that's got to fall in place. Now, your odds of succeeding are greater with a franchise than they are if you do it independently. Those are proven statistics again and again. And I've owned franchises and I've owned independent businesses, and I've also been part of a Fortune 100 suite as a chief marketing officer of a $17 billion company. So I've had a little bit of experience in all of those. So it's always a good time, even when the economy's down. There are businesses that do great. In fact, some of the ones we're talking about now, Dunkin', up 15% over last year. They've got a great bottom line. Their stock is doing better than it's ever done in its history. And so when you take a look at those kinds of things, even in a down economy, they've done a great job. And here, when you look at Dunkin', their management team, 90% of their management team is new in the last 5 years. So there's lots of different ways to get into business.
Why is it better to start off with a franchise as opposed to an independently owned venture, in your opinion?
Well, I think the franchise gives you a little bit more of a head start. Now, if you're 20, 30 years down the road and you still own that business, you might say, I don't need the franchise as much, although you're together with a, more of a global brand or regional brand, depending on the size of the franchise. So there's some benefits to that, the advertising and the marketing that you get. But when you're first getting started, there's a lot of questions that you don't know about, like accounting systems, how to purchase the stuff, where to go and get the customers, that the franchise can teach you So because they've got a lot of insight, and that's what companies like Dunkin' Brands, and they've got, whether it's Baskin and Robin or they've got Dunkin' Donuts, they can come out and at least show you the things that have been done in the past with greater success. So you have a greater chance for success. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed. I mean, they'll tell you right up front. Any franchisor will tell you this is still a risk, and it always is. That's the way business is, but less of a risk typically when you're with a franchise.
Once again, we're chatting with Jeffrey Hayzlett here on AM 1460. The new WXBR C-Suite premieres tonight on Bloomberg TV. Tonight's episode focuses on Dunkin' Donuts. What is something about Dunkin' Donuts that you did not know going in that you were interested to learn upon the first episode of the show?
There was a whole host of things. I mean, I got to go into the top secret kitchen of Dunkin' Donuts and see some of the products that they're going to be releasing into the future. Some I get to tell about, and some I can't, for obvious reasons. But there was a lot that I learned. I tell you, the biggest takeaway, me personally, was the cadence of the headquarters that matched the cadence of the franchise. Used to have Fred the Baker there at Dunkin' Donuts, which we all kind of grew up with watching. If you remember him in the commercial.
The Dunkin' Donuts guy. That's what he's known as.
Yeah, the Dunkin' Donuts guy. Well, that guy would get up, at 3 a.m. and start making donuts, just like they do today. Well, the management team at Dunkin' gets up at like 5, office by 5:30, and they're already working on the numbers from the day before. So that's where you're starting to see some of that real interaction, and that was something that really I learned from that experience that I didn't expect going in.
Another food-based business, which you mentioned earlier, was Domino's Pizza. You did an episode focused on them. They were a company that admitted that the pizza they were putting out, for all intents and purposes, was crap. Give us something interesting about Domino's Pizza that you discussed.
Well, there was a lot. First of all, I wanted to meet the guy that stood up in the meeting, raised his hand, and said, "Our product sucks." And I wanted to know if he was still there, and then what that conversation was like. So we actually go in and dissect that conversation, go through what precipitated or what caused that. And, I think what we always find and what we found at Domino's is don't waste a great crisis. So the economic crisis was looming them in the face. Their sales were declining, and it made them look at what they knew before, that their product wasn't as good as it was before. I mean, their biggest brand promise was delivering 30 minutes or less. Not about the greatest quality of their pizza, but getting there fast. They focused more on getting you the box of pizza than what was in the box. And so the crisis made them sit back and look at what business are we really in? And they were in two businesses. That is the business of providing a quality product, but also to help their franchisees sell more. And so when they spent more time on that and then tried to refocus their brand promise around that quality, then they saw some increases in sales. In fact, when I was there the other day filming, their stock hit an all-time high. So you gotta look and say, look, getting back to the basics really works.
Now, it seems like you're focusing on a lot of big, publicly traded companies. Are you going to look at any smaller companies as well, or you want to go for the big boys?
No, let's look at CrossFit or even the Sounders. Both of those were smaller companies, $100 million, and still pretty big, depending on where you're from. But, a $100 million company is still a pretty good company. And those are privately held companies. Like CrossFit's a privately held company. The CEO of that company owns that company. It's based out of Santa Clara, California, but they've got offices in San Diego and, of course, around the world. And as I said before, they're growing at 4,000%. And they're almost like a cult. In fact, I actually asked them about that because they get some criticisms that the way in which people approach their style of training is very, very ritualistic in terms of how they get people on board. So,
I tried CrossFit a few times. It is pretty intense, to say the least, Jeffrey.
Well, anytime you've got a mascot where Pukey the Clown is your mascot, there's a real reason behind it.
My first day, I was literally 30 seconds shy of vomiting. No lie.
Yeah.
If I had to go 30 more seconds, I was going to lose whatever was in my stomach. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. We're chatting with Jeffrey Hayzlett of Bloomberg TV. His new show, C-Suite, premieres tonight at 9:30. What businesses have you not sought out yet to be a part of this program that you would like to be a part of future episodes of the show?
Well, I'm at this point, we've got a show that's going to run throughout the year. I'll knock on wood and hope everything's successful with the ratings and everything else. But we feel pretty good. The word of mouth I know we had 1.2 million Twitter accounts that hit yesterday, so that was pretty hot. Where people are starting to talk about this. We're getting a lot of online activity, so which is just fantastic. But the word of mouth, and then I know a lot of the chief marketing officers around the world. The word of everything's coming back, and everybody's saying, "Hey, we want to be a part of this." And I think once they've seen a show or two, we won't have any issues, and we've not had any issues so far. Everybody's been very accommodating because what we're trying to do is educate people, and anytime you take people into the C-suite. The most difficult portion is getting all the officers of the C-suite in a room at the same time. That's been the biggest problem I've had in terms of getting the show off the ground.
We put it out there on Twitter that you would be on the show and ask the folks about some businesses they would like to see you explore on future episodes of C-Suite. One of them was casinos. Earlier you mentioned that you will have an episode focused on MGM, correct?
That's exactly right. MGM is one of our companies. In fact, tonight, I'll be talking offline with the CEO of the company, Jim Murham, about what he's doing and how he's doing some stuff and promotions for getting ready for the upcoming episode, which will air in a few weeks.
Another business ventures that we got from multiple Twitter followers, and I think this says something a little bit about our audience, is they want to know if you would explore UFC and WWE.
I think both of those, I've been reaching out to them. I think are great businesses themselves. They're running some super things. And I'd like to talk about, first of all, WWE, I'd like to talk about more about how they're reinventing themselves from the old days to the new days and what's different and why personalities dominate that. And then I think with the UFC, I really believe how have they touched this inner core? Because it's a fairly brutal kind of sport, tough sport. But yet it's got very wide appeal. In fact, I see a lot of my friends in the C-suite follow UFC, as well as a blue-collar guy follows UFC. So I'd like to really explore that side of it and say, what makes that so hot?
And WWE at this point is a publicly traded company, correct?
Exactly right. And I think they're located in Connecticut. They're just across the way. I'm in New York today. That's why I'm saying across the way.
Oh, you probably got about an hour to drive there then. Stamford, I believe. And UFC is a sport, like CrossFit has grown 4,000% recently. UFC is a sport that 8 years ago, no one knew what the hell it was. Now it's the biggest thing on pay-per-view, and it's on cable television every other night, it seems.
It's massive. I met with their CEO. I ran into him in Las Vegas at a function not too long ago, and we had an opportunity to chat. And I really like to go back in and look. It's just, our biggest issue is, I've got so many weeks to be able to film and put episodes on, and we're taking them as fast as we can get them. But it's just, it's a matter of choice and then timing as well. So.
Well, Dana White comes on our show here and there. We will mention you to him. We'll try to make the hookup, Jeffrey, all right?
No, Dana's a pretty good guy. He's done well. I hand it to people who bring something together and grow it fast and earn great value. That's just a phenomenal thing to do. We hear about companies like Apple. We hear about other well-performing companies like Ford and others. But, to watch these guys really just, in essence, I say it, slug it out is awesome. And to be able to have those discussions, I think, are fantastic.
Another company that people have suggested that you follow on a future episode of your program, really our Twitter followers and our fans should be your producer, Jeffrey, let's be honest.
Yeah, let's go. I crowdsource, or what I call it, I use the word friend source. We friend source a great deal. I mean, a lot of the promotion and talk about our show is this word of mouth, and we love these guys on Twitter. I was one of the first, guys on Twitter many, many years ago, and it's one of my main things. I love it.
I love this one right here that people are mentioning towards us because it seemed like maybe 10, 15 years ago, if you went to a concert and you had no idea who the company was backing the concert. But now Live Nation has become a concert promoting brand, and some people would be interested in learning a little bit more about Live Nation. Is that something that could be in the works, and what do you know about them?
Well, actually, I'll be talking about that over the next couple of days. I'm also going to be doing some stuff on Bloomberg talking about some of these companies going public and how they're doing it. And you're seeing even some of these DJs and some of the more digital music platforms now wanting to take their company out and go public, raise the money so they can grow and expand. I think it's cool.
Once again, we're chatting with Jeffrey Hayzlett here on AM 1460, the new WXBR, host of C-Suite, which premieres at 9:30 tonight on Bloomberg Television. Outside of this program, what's keeping you busy these days? We see you from time to time on various business shows on Fox, MSNBC, just a few off the top of my head. What's keeping you busy these days besides this Bloomberg TV deal?
Well, the biggest thing is this show, but, from time to time I'm on Bloomberg as a contributing editor as well. And so what I do is go and commentate, and that's a little bit about the stuff that we're doing on the C-suite. I talk about what it's like, what the conversations are going on in the C-suite on an everyday business, depending on what pops up on those particular topics. But I do a lot of speaking, a lot of keynoting. I've got a book out called Running the Gauntlet, which talks about how to adapt, change, or die your business. If you don't adapt or change, you will die. And that's a lot of what I talk about as I get out there with business owners.
You're the guy that's been in business in the past. Now you cover the business world. Do you like covering the business world or being in business more? And can you do both simultaneously?
Well, I'm kind of doing both, and that's one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about, the fact that I'm a brand in itself in terms of the entity of the TV show and personality and speaker, but I also run a bunch of businesses. I bought and sold over 250 businesses, well over $25 billion in transactions. And I've been in both small businesses and I've been in that C-suite. So that's a unique kind of perspective, whereas most commentators or most people that are on the news report about it, not been in it. So I kind of give a unique perspective. And I'm fairly straight, straight talking. I'm from South Dakota. I wear jeans and a cowboy boots. I don't wear ties. And I kind of tell it like it is. And I think it's refreshing for someone to bring that perspective to business, and certainly like to the C-suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett, which is on tonight on Bloomberg at 9:30.
Let's get a little selfish right now. Let's talk about media. You're in media. I'm in media. Years ago, the Internet was almost seen as a detriment to someone like myself on a broadcast radio station. Now, I never really bought into that, but that was the perspective that certain management types had. Nowadays, we do something on the air. It has a second life on the Internet. Where do you see traditional broadcast outlets like radio and TV going moving forward?
Well, I think you're going to see them much more blended. I didn't see it as a detriment. I saw it as an add-on. In fact, what you watch is most people are watching TV and they're got their tablet or their laptop or their smartphone with them, and they're looking things up that are popping up on air. Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, there's a cool sweater. There's a cool thing. And you start looking, and or you might even include your friends and start chatting about it, or go online and chat amongst yourself about the characters or the product or the service. And so that's what's really cool. And so I think you're going to see more, that blended a lot greater, and I also think you're going to see a lot more of it move digitally, more digitally than you will actually see broadcast. But broadcast and in terms of radio and broadcast is not going to go away. Never. I don't ever see that. It's just going to be delivered up differently. That's all.
It's one of those things where people look at ratings nowadays. I say ratings don't matter as much in the television world in particular as they used to, because a lot of people are DVRing content. You can watch stuff on demand. It's a lot more accessible to get content that is not live as opposed to what was, say, 10 years ago, and we'll see where the business moves forward. Jeffrey, I want to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. I want to remind our listeners that C-Suite premieres tonight at 9:30 on Bloomberg Television. I want to wish you the best of luck with this venture, and I hope you come back, and I hope you take some of our listeners' suggestions in mind, because I know they'll be paying attention.
I love it. Have them send me some more. Tweet me some more. Find me at Jeffrey Hayzlett. The hashtag is C-Suite. And you give me your suggestions, and we'll use them, and I'll give you full credit for it right on air. That's what I do all the time, and I'd love to have it. And thanks for letting me talk about Dunkin'. They're a great brand, and it's a great company out of Boston, and they've been part of our C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett.
I'm drinking some right now, as a matter of fact. How coincidental. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. You retweet something of ours so that we can get some of your 60,000 followers, all right? How's that sound?
We'll do it in a heartbeat. It'll be happening today as we speak about it.
That's Jeffrey Hayzlett here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. We're going to step aside for a quick break. Mike Pava is going to bring us a local news update. Stick with us.